Here we go.
Are they ready? Welcome, everyone, to the Town Council meeting of Monday, February 6th at 7 p.m. And we do have two proclamations that we'll move into right after we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want me to hold them?
Please.
Hello, you can hear me, right?
Yep.
So, welcome everyone to this Town Council meeting today on 6th of February, 2023. I have the pleasure of reading this proclamation on behalf of Mayor Murata, who couldn't be here today. She is sick, and so she couldn't make it today. So unfortunately, she's not here, but I'm happy to actually do this proclamation on her behalf. So I will start with Saurish Parmula, the young man right here. So in recognition of his battery recycling initiative, whereas My Battery is a nonprofit, come on over, created by youth dedicated to making Earth a better place to live through the encouragement and facilitation of recycling of all battery types. And whereas there are many benefits to recycling batteries according to the EPA, reduction in waste sent to landfills, conservation of natural resources such as metals and minerals, helps prevent pollution by reducing the need to collect new and raw materials, helps sustain the environment for future generations. Once the materials are recycled, they can be reused in making new products. And whereas in 2021, Saurish Parmula took it upon himself as a then 7th grade GMS student to join the Recycle My Battery campaign to make a difference in the Rocky Hill community. And in doing so, was the first student from the state of Connecticut to join the initiative. And whereas Saurish proposed a plan to set up battery recycling bins around town, including in our schools and at Cora J. Belden Library. And whereas Saurish also participated in the annual drug take-back program held by the Rocky Hill Police Department in collaboration with Rocky Hill Human, Youth, and Senior Services. And whereas Saurish's actions align with the town's commitment and prioritization of sustainable efforts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Lisa J. Murata, Mayor of Rocky Hill, do hereby acknowledge with gratitude Saurish Parmula for his sustainable efforts and call upon the residents of Rocky Hill to join me in recognizing Saurish for implementing his earth-friendly battery initiative and for thinking of the greater good of the community. Congratulations. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have one more to go. Thank you, Alan. So this one is in recognition of the Health for Humanity Yogathon. And this proclamation is being given to the Hindu Swam Sevak Sangh USA, the HSS USA. So whereas yoga is an ancient, is there somebody from the organization wants to come up?
Is there a limit how many can come?
No. More the merrier. Welcome.
Thank you.
So whereas yoga is an ancient Hindu practice developed thousands of years ago in the Indian subcontinent for maintaining spiritual, mental, and physical well-being, and whereas Surya Namaskar or sun salutation is a traditional yogic practice combining a sequence of postures with breathing exercises, and whereas Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh or HSS is a non-profit charitable organization with over 235 branches in 164 cities and in 34 states, including in the state of Connecticut, through which it conducts a Hindu values education program for Hindu families and community service activities such as food drives, providing hot meals to shelters, and other seva service activities in several cities in Connecticut. And whereas HSS is organizing its annual Health for Humanity Yogathon with the goal of having over 10,000 individual participants practice Surya Namaskar to promote the spiritual, mental, and physical well-being of all members of the community. And whereas yoga enthusiasts, yoga studios, and other community organizations are participating in the HSS Health for Humanity Yogathon. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Lisa J. Marada, Mayor of Rocky Hill, do hereby recognize HSS for organizing its annual Health for Humanity Yogathon to promote the spiritual, mental, and physical well-being of the community and encourage the citizens to participate in this health awareness activity. Congratulations, guys. How are you, young man? I'll present this to you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, appreciate it.
Appreciate everything you do.
One more big thing. We also want to give a token of appreciation to Lisa.
Absolutely.
Participated. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Participated this marathon last week. So
Yeah.
she
Can I
should-
receive it on her behalf?
Yeah.
I'll pass it along.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
I'll put the mic back up there. The mic, do we need to keep it out there for
Just
public
keep it on the
comment?
chair,
On the chair?
or put it on one of the chairs.
They would turn it off, though, while I'm sitting there.
I think so. All right, thank you, Pankaj, for reading those proclamations to the recipients tonight instead of the mayor, who is out with a stomach bug of all things. On the agenda, moving forward, we have appointments and resignations. Councilor Duff, any appointments or resignations?
Public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have public comment next on the agenda, and so this is the time when the public can come to the podium, state your name and address, and you've got 2 minutes to make comments to read into the record.
Deputy Mayor, just as a comment before we start the public comments, the intention tonight is that the old business item, Kelson Row, will remain tabled. So while we still welcome your comments this evening, and there'll be comments before the next meeting on that, just want to let you know it won't be discussed this evening.
That's fine. The more you hear about it, it stays fresh in your mind.
Thank
Hi,
you.
I'm Lori Bosky, 18 Highland Street in Rocky Hill. I actually have 2 items to comment on. The first is Kelson Row. Again, it's just a very quick comment. I urge you to consider changing the recommendations that were made at the previous meeting. I certainly understand that we need to make some concessions while the building is in process of being constructed, but once being occupied with a certificate of occupancy, I don't see why we have to hold the taxes at the 60-something thousand amount. It just doesn't seem reasonable. My taxes are going to be going up every year, and you're saying this year is going to be worse because of we're not having any COVID relief money. So I would wish you can consider that. The second comment I have is I'm speaking as a member. I guess I can speak as a member of the Fair Rent Commission. I just want to speak to you a quick moment and just make you all aware, if you're not aware, about the situations that exist at concierge apartments. They have been having consistent problems with what I consider to be health issues. I have tenants now emailing me with concerns. This past Saturday, at 11:52 a.m., I received an email saying that the hot water has been out for hours, and this is Saturday when the wind chills were well below zero. And it says, does no one monitor this for the 1,000-plus residents in Rocky Hill? And then later, a little bit later, at 7:24 p.m. on Saturday, now there's no water at all, not even for toilets, and still no communication from the management staff. I was provided a number to call at management, which I did call, and it rang for almost 10 minutes before, and no one picked up. And I am concerned. I know Mayor Murata, I know Mr. Carpentino and Mr. Sharamet, you all received these same emails, but I want the town to know, I want the council to know that I am really concerned. As a Rocky Hill resident, there is no reason we should be treating our residents this way. They pay taxes because their rent goes to taxes. They're without water. I think that's a very unhealthy and unsafe situation, and it's not that has just started. It's been going on for quite some time. Back in December, I was given information about broken water pipes. Now, I happen to live practically right across the street, so I went over there, and I have video of hot water streaming out of the building onto tenants' cars with ceilings falling down on top of people's cars. A poor gentleman who had his motorcycle stored, there was just garbage all around it with hot water flowing everywhere. And I know, Mr. Carpentino, I think when I was leaving, you were pulling in. So I appreciate the concern you have, but as a member of a commission, I just feel like my hands are tied. I think we need to do something more. Granted, we're not owners of the property, and the property owners happen to live in California, which is another problem. So I just really think that that's something we really need to look at. I'm embarrassed by the condition of that building, and it's listed as luxury apartments, and it is far from that. So I'd appreciate you taking some consideration and looking into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from public, please approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is John Chunas. I live at 40 Deerfield Run in Rocky Hill. I've been a resident and taxpayer in this town for 48 years. I'm here to voice an opinion on the proposed tax abatement for Kelson Row. I do understand it's been tabled, but I'd like to provide my comments to you. When this project was originally conceived, I had mixed feelings about it. Yes, the town needed to do something with the old Ames building and the land. However, I was concerned that the additional apartments would place undue burden on town resources, especially the education department. I was hoping that a project that included only retail space and office space, such as Somerset Square facility in Glastonbury, would be pursued, which in my opinion would have been a better choice for that location and the long-term benefit of the town, versus additional apartment buildings and resulting impact on school resources. I now see that the developer has requested a 10-year tax abatement. Not only will this project result in increased costs for the town, especially by additional school children that will live there, those costs will now have to be borne by all remaining taxpayers in the town, such as retired people like myself, for that 10-year duration. I do realize that business development incentive policy of the town permits this. And I remember another application several years ago when the Burris complex was built on Brook Street. That project, as I recall, only had a 3-year tax abatement of around $150,000 per year. Also, that project had no impact on the Board of Education budget, and no school children would be living there. However, the requested tax abatement for Kelson Row project is for 10 years and results in a total lost revenue of $7 million. That lost revenue will have to be made up by the other taxpayers like myself, either as an increase in the mill rate or as elimination of revenue that would result in a mill rate reduction and lower overall taxes. It's just not right that some people get away with not paying their fair share in taxes for 10 years. I believe that the requested tax abatement is excessive and should be denied. If the developer chooses to pull out, so be it. There are other options to consider down the road, options that will impact the town less severely. I would prefer to wait another 20 years rather than give away a $7 million windfall to put up an apartment complex. If absurd tax abatements are what it takes to build apartment buildings these days, it would behoove the town to give up the idea of projects like this. Furthermore, the town could take out a bond and purchase the property for less than half the value of the requested tax abatement. That way, we could develop it specifically to meet all our desires. True green space, open spaces over the entire 12 acres, not just sprawling apartment buildings, parking lots, and a few small pocket parks. As such, I request the town council to reject the tax abatement request. Thank you for allowing me to provide my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else from public like to approach the podium?
Oh, I know him.
Charlie Wisniewski, 670 Old Main Street. My 120 seconds or so. I reserve the right to do this jointly and severally with my wife. You're in receipt of new information from Belfonte and the town manager. Please take sufficient time to review it. You are not limited in your review and responsibility. Please review it in the same way you will review the parts and pieces of the town budget, soon to be before you. Make sure that the deal includes what you want on a number of items. In my 120 seconds, I can only touch on one or two. Supposedly, the town is to receive a park called the North Pocket Park of approximately 7,000 square feet. I don't know if it's clear in the information sent to you as town councilors who's going to own that, who's going to maintain it, who's going to have the liability, and are there rules of use, as we have with all our parks. As far as I know, there are no other parts of Kelson Row that will be town of Rocky Hill parks. There's been a lot of oral statements, and there was an original application, a change, and so on. I believe the formal approval says there will be a 5,000 square foot park. And we've been given information to answer questions of some councilmen as to costs. And there's some really bewildering costs with this pocket park. Examples. They have in there $7,500 to dig a pit for one tree. But the North Pocket Park is going to have 10 tree pits, so that's $75,000. And then in that same 7,000 or 5,000 square feet, which is about twice the size of this room, it's $200,000 to grade it. If the tax abatement to address these costs is required, then you need to do a little more homework in the few extra days you may have to say, what are we really giving money for? I do not think the town would willingly spend this much money for so little benefit for a 5,000 or 7,000 square foot park. And certainly the town staff could do it for a heck of a lot less. But the most important thing that I'll say, the last thing, is you have received a new tax abatement grid in your special town meeting package. And again, it is unclear to me, and I have spent some effort to try to understand it. I suggest a revision to that with calendar years and years of revaluation added. In my opinion, the grid misrepresents the tax abatement. The town of Rocky Hill assessor will estimate the value of Kelson Row each year, every year, as he does for every property. That includes the years of construction and pre-development. So during the calendar years, 2023, 2024, and 2025, the assessor will determine how much that property has increased in value. In the calendar year 2026, your deal appears to say Rocky Hill agrees to accept $62,583. That appears to be the amount agreed upon for 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, 2031, and 2032. The revaluations of 2023 this year and 2028, 5 years in advance, will not matter to Kelson Row for those years because it appears you've agreed to take $62,583. In 2033, 2034, and 2035, the taxes due on Kelson Row will be abated 80%, 60%, and 50% of what value? Of what revaluation? Or is it the numbers in the grid? Is it payments of $148,000, $297,000, and $371,000? Or is it 20%, 40%, and 50% of a new revaluation in 2028 or 2033? The town manager has given you data on Altira and Montage. Their assessments are based upon a 2018 revaluation. They're different properties. Any comparison would require adjustments for age, location, improvements, etc. There will be no taxes paid on the commercial section until 2036. For at least the first 10 years, construction, pre-construction, and then 7 years of the 63,000, mill rate doesn't matter. There'll be mill rate increases in 2023, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32 before maybe there'll be a mill rate impact on the assessment for Kelson Row in 2033, in 2034, and 2035, although they'll be reduced by 20%, 40%, and 50%. No, 60%, 80%, 60%, and 50%. So, please review this deal. Please treat it like a budget item. Stop saying it is money you never had. The assessor gets a copy of every building permit for every property in Rocky Hill. Will you abate all future tax revenue for other improvements on other properties that currently do not exist in Rocky Hill? Please make your intentions clear to each citizen, voter, and taxpayer of Rocky Hill. Who of you will be here in 10 years? This deal has to be expressed much better than it currently is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come to the podium with public comment?
Ed Ciccarello, 40 Riverview Road. I'd like to add my voice to the last three speakers in regards to the Kelson Row tax abatement. First, let me say, talk about sidewalks. In this plan, and I went to look at the plan today with Charlie, there are sidewalks in this plan already. When you go out of the driveway of Ames to Pratt Street, there's a sidewalk that goes to Pratt Street. There's a sidewalk that goes up Dividend, right? And then there's Pratt Street. Now, I've asked to put sidewalks here, and the only way that we're going to be able to put sidewalks there, and I'll quote, is upon the town obtaining grading easements. So the developer is putting it on you, us, to get grading easements. Otherwise, there will be no sidewalks on Pratt Street, and I think it would be a great loop. So I ask you tonight, this council, if there's a way that you can direct our town manager to obtain grading easements to put a sidewalk, it just makes total sense to me. In regards to the tax abatement, I'm surprised that there are not many more people here, because everybody I talk to in town, when they say this, people will call me up and I'll explain it to them, and you could just hear smoke coming out of their ears. They're just, I don't know anybody that said, yeah, great job, we're giving away $9 million. It's just, nobody nobody has said that, and this is my concern with it. And I wouldn't be here if I wasn't concerned. I don't want to waste your time, but I've always been a process-oriented person. As a teacher, I felt set up the process, and everything will work well. And I went to every public hearing for the Ames and the Kelson Row proposal. Not once did I ever hear them say luxury. I didn't hear that word, really. And now I see it plastered on their, their sign outside. And I think now about luxury versus affordable housing. And once I felt guilty coming up here and say, you know what, this planet, you guys got to go back and do it over again. And I, that our town manager has done a lot of work for 20 years. But you know what? After John Chunas spoke, maybe it would be okay if this person went home and took his ball. And maybe it would be okay if we put something else there. And maybe if we did wait another 5 or 10 years. The building's down now. If I knew then what I know now, I probably would have spoke against that proposal. If I imagine that $9 million that you say we don't have, that $780,000 a year that they're supposed to pay, and the $63,000 that they're going to pay, that's a difference of let's say just $700,000. Imagine what that $700,000 could do if we had that per year in our budget. The Board of Ed is going to come to you for a 4.3% increase. The Park and Rec is going to come to you for more in their tree budget. Right? We have roads and facilities and electricities. If I knew then, if I knew what I know now, I probably would have spoken against it. $9 million over 13 years, no mill rate increase, no reevaluation. Imagine that money that we're not getting coming to us. What could we do with it? It does exist. It's there. And one of the things that bothers me is one of the things I just heard tonight. It reminded me when one of the developers' representatives was up here, and they were talking about the $1 million grants that they got, and then they were offered another $500,000 grant, but he said we didn't take it because then we would have to pay prevailing wages. That's anti-union talk, right? That's what that is. So maybe this developer does take his ball and go home. And then maybe what we do is we build affordable housing in that whole place. And we take care of our affordable housing problem. Maybe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Anybody else? Any further comments from the public? Okay, I'm seeing no further comments from the public, so we will move on the agenda to appointments and resignations, and I turn to Councilor Duff.
No appointments and resignations from our side.
Councilor Levine.
We do have an appointment, actually, to reappoint Nicholas Giuliano to another term on the Insurance Committee.
Great, okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the Town Council meeting of January 17th, 2022?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, they pass. All right, subcommittee reports. We are on finance.
Finance has not met since the last council meeting. Our next meeting is this Thursday at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Government ops.
Government operations met earlier today. I'll just give some of the highlights. The town garage has had some improvements done as far as painting, new flooring, and lighting goes. It's been completed. Firehouse 3 HVAC system is underway. 2 of the 3 systems are in. The third one is kind of on back order due to supply constraints, but they expect to have that kind of in the spring, and then all 3 units will then be put onto the roof at that time just to save on cost for cranes. They've also moved personnel the personnel moved the fire marshals from town hall, emergency management director to Firehouse 3. All was done in-house as well as with the assistance of some of the team from Firehouse 3. On the school buildings, the Stevens School HVAC project and GMS roof were just both put out to bid on January 31st, so those are in process. We'll hopefully have more updates at future meetings. Straska Farm, I think this is pretty much the same, but working with UConn and other committees and the engineering company we've hired on the outside, come up with an engineering plan, and I think it's going to be reviewed by wetlands shortly, or it's in that process?
Wednesday.
On Wednesday, okay. Center Green expansion, using some ARP money to develop a plan, expand Center Green and connect, and to connect the green with the Kelson Row project. Glassberry Ave sidewalk project, again, using some ARP money, funding to develop a plan in conjunction with the Center Green expansion and as well as with projects along the river. There's a grant we became aware of called RAISE, R-A-I-S-E, and we're working with the town of Weathersfield on a cohesive regional plan to use that grant for kind of planning in the, what was the street area? The
Silestein Highway.
The Silestein Highway area. Let's see, the Evans Road Brownfield Assessment Grant, which is up to $200,000 for environmental 1, 2, and 3 assessments in that area. Agreement is waiting to be signed by property owners in the area, and we've received 7 bids from environmental engineers that are being reviewed. Century Hills Drivewalk Steep Grant, we received $500,000, and which will be put toward either Phase 1 or Phase 2, depending on how the linear footage works with the costs. And we're applying for additional federal grant funds to do whatever a phase that grant's not covering. Lastly, 2 things. Elm Ridge Park updates. They found in doing the plan that there's not enough room for a cricket field at Elm Ridge, so the plan now is to possibly put in pickleball courts at Elm Ridge, so stay tuned for that. And lastly, we had an incident at Rock Hill High School with the cold weather over the weekend. Three heating coils froze, had some minor water issues throughout. Contractors are cleaning those up now, and claims have been filed with our insurance company. Adjuster is coming out tomorrow.
And, yeah, okay. School wasn't interrupted.
No, that was over the weekend, so there's no issues, yeah.
Great. Next meeting?
I don't have the date.
Okay.
I think the first Monday in March, so
Yep.
probably 4 weeks from today, actually. March 6th, right? It's be the same day, right? 28 days of February, so.
Public safety. Councilor Prakash?
Yeah, so last meeting of public safety was on January 17th. The next public safety meeting will be on February 20th, 2023.
21st.
21st.
We have President's Day off, so it would be the 21st
It will be
at
the 21st,
5:30.
yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, senior liaison. I know, Alan, you were out of town, so you didn't chair it, and Mimi you had a family issue. So I did attend. We didn't have a quorum, so we did not have a meeting per se, but I can report that a lot of things are going on, and one of the reasons is simply that the committee meets quarterly, and so from August to January 23rd, which is when we met to discuss how they're doing and what's going on, there were quite a bit of things that were happening. So it's great to hear that they're doing well. So Melissa Hicks in Human Services has 2 new folks, Lauren and Kelly. So we have a staff person, Lauren, that, let me just get my notes here. I believe Lauren is a specialist with the seniors and housing and Medicare, Medicaid issues. Kelly works with youth services. So that's important because as we go forward, there's new programs, new programming in the area of wellness and bereavement, 8-week programs that they're very excited about. The holiday events, that sometimes in excess of 85 meals are being served and home deliveries as well. It was reported that the senior center enrollment has now reached 1,739 enrolled seniors, 17% of which are out-of-town seniors coming to take advantage of our great program here and facilities. That out-of-town population generates $7,000 in revenue to the program, so that's a nice plus. Even so, meals are going up $1 for during the week and $2 for special events. On those special events in town, those meals at the senior center, normally it's a 65-person crowd being fed, but on holidays, usually like 80 plus attend, so it's really attending.
We've had a few at 125.
125, yeah. So they've had things like a Ukrainian Christmas event that raised $300. There's Alice training going on. They've initiated programs such as Healthy Brain, the Chocolate Workshop, and Makeup for Mature Women. But there's just a lot going on, and both directors are really ecstatic about the way things are going over there. So kudos to them. The next meeting on that senior liaison will be April 24th at 5 p.m. We will go to farmland. I will give the report on farmland, unless, Chris, would you like to report on farmland?
I think the main thing was that we were informed that the site plan for Straska Farm will be moving through the town land use board, starting with wetlands and then also planning and zoning.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so we met on January 24th at 5:30, a little bit ahead of time. Normally we meet at 6. It was noticed properly. Our next meeting is February 28th at 6 p.m. And at the January 24th meeting, we voted to approve the Zuvik Yukon land use plan, and we sent that to P&Z. It is on their agenda for P&Z meeting of February 15th. The liaison to the state rep and state senator, I have not met with them. The school liaison report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We are in the budget season, kind of, sort of, starting to get there. And the kickoff was the school's budget late last month. So I'm gonna, I talked to Vice Chair Stephen Slattery, and then connected with Dr. Zito, and he was gracious enough to share his presentation with me. I'm not gonna steal his thunder because I'm sure he's gonna come back to the council after the Board of Ed adopts their budget, and we'll be presenting here. So, but I have a skinny version of it, about 14 slides, so just heads up. If you are waiting me to finish my report, you can go take a coffee break if you want. But I guess you want to listen to my public report. So I think this is an exciting one. Like I said, a lot of work goes into this. So the superintendent was very gracious. Dr. Zito was very gracious in sharing this with me. So I'm gonna start with, if you can go into the first slide, Raymond. Thank you. So the adopted budget for the last year was 49 million and change, 775,000 worth of change on that 49 million. This year, it's 52 million. And that's an increase, if you're doing math at home, that's a 4.79% increase year over year. And that's a substantial increase, and I want to go into that a little bit in the next few slides, but going on to the next slide, the chunk of that, as is always the case with schools, it's a very human-intensive operation, and most of that money spent in schools goes to the salaries and the benefits of people, of the great people who work there, our teachers and staff. So 82% of that budget is salaries and benefits, and 2/3 of that is salaries. As no surprise there, right? Going on to the next slide, this is just again a visual representation of our previous slide, but it brings home the point that this is a lot of human costs there, like salaries and benefits, which go up year over year. So a lot of that is baked into that budget, those costs, right, year over year costs. Going to the next slide, just to go into that 4.79% increase, which is really what we are looking at and kind of double clicking on here. If you double click on that, most of that, again, is coming from the salaries and the benefits. So those are like fixed costs, really, and it's 3.52% of that 4.79 is coming from there, if you're keeping track at home. Going to the next slide. So as Dr. Zito said in his remarks when he presented the budget to Board of Ed, they are facing a number of challenges this year. And one of the biggest ones is the expiration of the federal COVID relief funds. And that is what he characterized as a fiscal cliff. The other elements of this increase are the projected spikes in costs for utilities, natural gas and electric, like we all are seeing in our home costs, and these are not that different for our school system, and they are just bigger, if anything. So the inflation combined with the fiscal cliff coming for the federal COVID funds, increase in fuel costs. Transportation is a big part of the school's budget, and increases in that fuel costs amount to almost $200,000, about a 0.4% of that increase. And if I remember the numbers correctly, last but not the least, the increasing numbers of special ed students in the school system account for the fourth element of that increase. And I'll get into that in the next slide. If you go on to the next slide, Raymond, thank you. So the fiscal cliff Dr. Zito talked about, that's about $685,000 high. And out of that, a lot of it is in personnel, the special education, ID support, clerical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So ideally speaking, Dr. Zito mentioned that he would like to keep those personnel in the school system if those dollars will be available. And he did talk about offsetting some of that cliff, fiscal cliff, with like a $363,000 in offsets coming out of like some consolidations, some reductions in staff, and some anticipated retirements, just normal attrition in an organization, I guess. So, in a typical year, he mentioned that an increase, if there was no fiscal cliff like this, would be about 3.2%. So it's a substantial, increase over what you would expect as a baseline increase, according to Dr. Zito. Moving on to the next slide, Raymond. Thank you. So as I mentioned, like one of the elements of this increase, the fourth element I talked about a couple of slides back, is the special education. And we, as Rocky Hill School System, do a really great job at this, in our school. The special education we have gotten really good at providing those services to our parents and our students. And as a result, as you can see, Dr. Zito mentioned, starting in 2012, where he first started as the superintendent, there is a big increase, in fact, a 68% increase in people who are students who are in that program, right? And that is not accounting for anybody who is not identified yet, right? So these students are in the program right now, right? So parents are looking to Rock Hill Public Schools. A lot of people are moving here because we are doing this well. And I'm glad we are doing this well because there is a huge need in our schools to provide these services and do well by these children. So this is a big part of this increased number, like 4.79. And I think we need to, like, as and when the time comes, I think he's going to talk more about it, obviously, when this budget comes to the council. But I think this will be a big one to kind of pay attention to, and I hope we fund it. But anyway, moving on to this is the favorite part of my presentation, and 4 more slides, guys. Yeah, we are almost there. So this is the favorite part of my presentation, as I said, because these are the numbers I'm really proud of as a council member and as a parent. Because right here in our DRG-D group, if you're watching at home, that just means your peer group. So we are in the DRG-D peer group with 23 other towns. And we are 17th in spending, and if we were to like get to that average, we have to spend $1,200 per pupil more. So we are doing very well, but that's just one part of the equation. Going on to the next slide, what we do really well though is we get really good results out of those $18,000 we spent per pupil. And this is a new metric which the state is looking at now after COVID. And if you look at it from a pandemic recovery math perspective, if you pay attention to the performance index side of things, we are first in that math pandemic recovery. And a lot of this, as Dr. Zito said, the credit goes to our Board of Ed and the Town Council, which supported the Board of Ed in keeping schools open in fall of 2020 and for all students. And that was a big difference maker come 2023, right? I think we did very well. We did good by our students, and the Board of Ed did a tremendous job, awesome job at keeping these schools open and doing right by the kids. So moving on to the next slide, this is the same data on the ELA, and again, we are top of the class. So that's really encouraging. But these last 2 slides are my favorite because I've asked Dr. Zito last year, and again, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Zito as a superintendent. He has, I always, if you move to the next slide, Raymond, thank you. So this is somewhat of like a punching above our class data set, which is coming from wealthier communities. So, like I said, like I asked Dr. Zito about like those communities, and this year he has provided this data where, if you look at these communities around us, like Glastonbury, they spend $1,100 more per pupil, and if you look at, they're called the DRG-B group. If you're wondering at home. If you go to the next slide, what you will find is we are, if we were actually, let's say we were part of that peer group, we would be third on that math pandemic recovery metric. So we were first in our peer group. We are third, punching above our weight. So I think we are doing a really good job in our schools in terms of the ROI we are getting out of the money we are spending. And again, the last slide is just, looking at the ELA scores. And again, if you look at it, we are again third if you insert ourselves into that wealthier group of towns. So it's a budget season. It's always an increase. It's always a tough year. And especially this year with like the fiscal cliff I talked about in the beginning of the presentation. So there is a lot of challenges, lot to tackle. But when you look at the results and what we are doing for our students and our families, I wanted to end with that good news story there. And I'm really proud, I've said this before, I'm really proud of our school system here, really proud of the administration in leadership of Dr. Zito and the Board of Ed and Brian Dillon and Stephen Slattery, who are leading that Board of Ed. So congratulations to them. Again, like I said, like this will be back, and I don't want to steal his thunder. This was like a long, this presentation is just probably probably 25% of what Dr. Zito talked about. So not to steal his thunder, but he'll be back here and he'll present his case himself. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that report. That was great, and I hope folks tune back in to see that again and see those numbers a little bit ahead of the budget season. So that would be great. Moving on to Capital Improvement Subcommittee.
No meeting since our last council meeting, and we don't have one presently scheduled.
And Economic Development Subcommittee.
Same. No meeting, and we don't have one scheduled.
All right. There is nothing on our consent agenda, so we move to old business. Old business A is, I guess, kind of look up and down the council on any discussion or any new discussion regarding ARP funding options. I don't believe we have anything that anybody's, yep, okay. Item B is discussion, possible action with Kelson Row, Ames, request for a tax abatement. I believe we're going to table that item. We are tabling that item, so we will move on to new business. Discussion proposed 2023-2024 budget schedule and process.
All right, I will just go over the budget schedule right now that you have before you. We do have to make some changes to the schedule. Where you see the April 6th meeting, we're recommending that should be changed to Tuesday, April 4th. Where you see Thursday, April 20th, we're proposing April 18th, which is a Tuesday. Again, April 27th, Thursday, April 27th, proposing Tuesday, April 25th, and then May 4th, Thursday, we're proposing Tuesday, May 2nd.
Give a moment for everybody to look at those
Sure.
dates.
And then you can get back to us, tomorrow or later this week to let us know.
Okay, so we can email back in.
Yeah, Daniel will do his coordination as he usually does, and we'll determine.
So could you email all of us the proposed
Yes.
new schedule? And then we can, upon receiving that, everybody can make comment back, I suppose.
Right.
And it seems like the main change is to move that April 6th date, and then the other meetings go from Thursday to Tuesday.
2 days earlier.
Okay. Now, a quick discussion on the proposed process. Mona and I have been working on a new, especially Mona, on a new software program, restructuring how we do the budget, how we present the budget. And attached in your package is a draft version of a budget, and she chose a town manager budget. It is not our proposal that you see before you. It's a sample.
The scale of the numbers was way off, yes.
I'm going to have Mona walk you through and let you open you up to what we're looking at.
So as you know, we've gotten accustomed to doing the same format, the Word document and the numbers. So we have a new software that's an overlay to our existing financial system, so we're still doing all the same work in the background, putting it into the financial system. What this does is, I think, gives it a better feel to it. So you'll still see the beginning for every department will have a narrative. For example, the town manager will be following it by just identifying some high-level major changes in there. I think if you've seen in the past, you'll have the write-up and the numbers, but not really pointing out for you what the changes are. It has nice, colorful graphs. We'll be able to look at this online. You know, as we go through it, we can click on each department and flow through it. It won't be printed, only if we need to have it printed. The following page, and I'm changing some of the columns, so this really is a draft. We're working on the better use of space, you know, how many years of actual do we want to squeeze in versus comparing projections and so forth. So this isn't the final, but it's give you a sense of what you're looking at. You'll find that these line items, these salaries, will get listed individually, but they're also summarized. I think that comes in handy, especially some of your budgets will have like so many lines of supplies or services, so it'll subtotal that for you, make it easier to follow and easier on the eye, I believe. Then jumping on to the next, we are seriously considering putting in organizational charts for each department. It's been one of my many goals to get the GFOA award for budgeting. They love to have organizational charts, but I think at this point, to give this a new facelift and accommodate that in a short time frame, I may not be able to come through with that promise, but we are looking at goals. All department heads have worked with the town manager and looking at some goals, so you'll see their individual goals listed there, and we're asking each department to come up with some type of an activity indicator, give you a sense of what they're doing, rather than just looking at words and numbers. Let's see, what their progress is, something comparable, square feet of, space cleaned and so forth. So this is the new facelift that we're going to be sharing. And did you have?
We can also manipulate these numbers very easily also, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Within the program. So Alan and Jeff, you can just play with the numbers without having to, download things. And, anybody can just, okay, what would happen if we put this number in this column, and everything could change without actually changing the actual original document.
Yep.
And also, when it does be presented finally, it will be online, and the public can manipulate that themselves also. So they can, instead of looking at spreadsheets, they can look at a friendlier version so it's easily understood.
Yeah, this is the example of the department level, but there will be a lot of just, high level, town-wide, this is all departments together, pie chart of departments, whether you like bar graphs, you can look at it in bar graph form. So I think it's going to be an enjoyable thing to look at.
Mona, just as I'm looking at your draft, and I know it's a draft, but when you look at like the full-time salaries, which is A4, we're actually showing a decrease. And it's showing that it's a 25% increase, if I'm reading it right. So they're just.
You are reading it prematurely.
Okay.
This is for format purposes only.
All right, good, because I started looking, I'm like, wait, they're going the wrong way. It's actually a decrease.
These are not our numbers.
All right, I started the budget season early.
Illustrated purposes only.
That's a little bit early.
All right, at least I read it.
Thank you.
Christmas season for him, right?
So so March 31st comes, that's when the proposed date is to release the budget. Will you just say, hey, here's a link, go at it type of thing, or like?
No, you'll probably hear from me again as we get going. We've just started this.
No, I understand that, but
I'll give you a sense of like what you can see, and also you'll have, if you want exports, we can still do that.
But no, I'm saying, like, normally that day, that's when we get the book.
right.
So now it's, okay, when that day hits, okay, it's ready for you guys to look at, and we're all just be able to log in and look online.
Absolutely.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
how,
It is printable, but the
Yeah.
ideal is to do it
No.
online, yeah.
see, Punkin's paperless, right?
So,
Right?
any other questions of the?
No, that was pretty much it. I guess the question, well, I did have one. So are we all going to get like our individual link? We're all going to get our own working copy, then would compare notes. If I make it an adjustment on my what-if scenarios, it's not going to impact what Jeff and Alan or someone else is doing.
Right, it'll go out, it'll send you an invitation to be like a viewer on that, and then it has a column that you can put in some notes and so forth.
And then I can export my notes and compare them that way.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can we share our notes, though? If I wanted to share with Chris, could I show him my model or no?
I'm not sure. I
Okay.
can ask that. Okay.
Mimi or Bill? No?
I'm good, thank you.
Do you have to have Excel to operate? So this is going to be like in the cloud?
It's in the cloud, web-based.
So folks won't have to download and muck up their
Right,
cache or their memory or whatever? Okay.
right.
All right.
I'm just curious, like, is this like a new software we have acquired, or this has
Yes.
been around for a while?
It's new to us. I mean, it's ClearGov, and it's been a lot of other neighboring towns have started to get into it. So, yeah, it's new
Great.
for us.
Awesome.
We became aware of it during the town manager search. Some of the candidates had talked about it, so that's great. That's great.
Go ahead.
All right, then, moving on, there's obviously no mayor's report tonight, but I will make one comment in this section before we move on to the town manager's report, and that is, oh, I'm sorry, we're not finished on the,
We're not finished on the budget.
on the budget schedule process.
It's called the teeth.
Oh, wait, there's
I
more.
I was shooting to wrap up by,
Well, we would have.
no, I wasn't.
No.
Where was I? Oh, an additional comment and proposal for the budget process. In the past, we've had every department head and many of their staff come up and sit at a table and defend their budget. What we're proposing is we will be meeting with these department heads and in detail, and I will know and Mona will know exactly what they have, what they need, what they don't need, what we've cut, what we haven't cut. So the budget would be proposed from me. And the questions, instead of, we may have to have, one or two, or depending on the question of, a department head coming in. But having them come in and it's an adversarial process, and I'm trying to avoid that.
So you're saying that you will be at the mic for every line item, every department, with the department coming in to back you up?
Without the department coming in, unless we need them.
Okay.
And then it's a team approach this time.
What I will suggest is, Ray, like, if they are available, right?
If they're available and if they're.
They should be available.
Yeah, they should be available if they're needed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like
Yeah.
Board of Ed still.
Yeah, I would suggest having them at your side.
Yeah, they have them,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
3 or 4 of them sitting there, that's about it.
Yeah, because sometimes there are questions that come up that aren't related to the budget, but maybe they're projecting. Like, for example, just tonight we heard about Elm Ridge not being the right size for a cricket pitch. If Parks and Rec is up presenting, we could talk about what in the future is there another place, that we might find the room for that. And there's just different conversations with some of those department heads for the really publicly visible ones where I think that is useful. So if they're at least available at as on demand, I guess that would be helpful for Parks and Rec, Highway, other ones like that. I think it would be useful. And then, just in terms of the budget, I think it's great that's going digital and being online. We'll have printed copies with like a town hall in the library for folks who may not be online.
Right.
Yeah, we have to.
Yes, it is printable.
Well, but like there'll be one if
It will still, yes.
there'll be a
we
printed
need to
copy
do that.
available. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Ray, any more?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. So for the mayor's report, though, again, there's no mayor's report, but I do want to just make the town aware that over the weekend, we did try to keep up with our illustrious fire department and our emergency management and our human services department, because that record cold did freeze a lot of pipes, and it was townwide, it was widespread. We had restaurants, we had residents, we had commercial buildings, and we had a large apartment complex. And so there was a lot of burst pipe, and yes, our fire department not only fights fires in the cold weather, but it rushes out to these kind of flooding situations, and so kudos go out to them. They worked long shifts, and the entire department was pretty much out there over the course of the 3 days and nights and mornings, especially Sunday morning. So shout out to those emergency services that the town desperately needed and got. Town manager's report?
Manager's report, you have a memo in your package dated 2/6, which I actually did on 2/3. So I'm going to add a couple things. Just very quickly, the DEEP grant update. Just adding to my report from last month where Murphy Road Recycling does have temporary authorization to proceed, but we have to wait for that final. But in the process, we have been meeting with Murphy Road, and we are discussing several alternatives that may be even more efficient than what was originally proposed to augment what was originally proposed. So we're looking at costs and options along those lines. The opioid settlement update, you have a memo in your package. In this basic form, municipalities will be getting additional funds from several other sources that have been pulled into this settlement, and we don't know the amounts yet, but I think they will be probably in May, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll keep you updated on that. Just on a happy note, we've been awarded. Mona has been awarded for her financial wizardry, again, from the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA. We have an award of an excellence to be put on one of those, the pin to be put on that plaque on the wall for the 2021 budget.
The same award. It's the same award category.
Same award, yeah.
Congratulations.
Same award
Keeping it alive.
for the comprehensive financial report. And another award, which we've been recognized by the ADA Coalition of Connecticut, 6th year in a row, for our ongoing commitment to the American Disabilities Act. And I assume we'll be recognized again next year, Dana being the ADA coordinator, Melissa Hicks also the partner ADA coordinator. I have a letter here from Sergeant Russ Foss-Rugen, dated February 2nd, expressing the police department's appreciation for the Public Works Department during a funeral procession on February 2nd for retired Rocky Hill officer Clyde Tyler's daughter. She had died unexpectedly, and with the help of our Public Works Department and Community Development Department, minimize any traffic disruptions during that procession. And I just want to follow up on the Deputy Mayor's comment regarding a very active weekend with many water main breaks, freeze-ups. The emergency services, the fire department, the fire marshal's office, and also our human services department, Melissa Hicks and her people, and the fantastic job they've done coordinating the response and the potential planning in case we had to relocate 200 or more people. So, you should be very proud of what they've done and what they continue to do. And that concludes my report.
We are indeed, absolutely.
I just had a question about the DEEP grant. Is there any action that we need to take in terms of formally accepting the grant, or is the process that once the agreement is reached with Murphy Road and DEEP and the town, the council has to approve that? It's been a little while, so what do the next steps look like?
First step is we need to just wait for authorization from DEEP. There is always a load of paperwork with every grant, so, an assistance agreement will have to be finalized. If there are any changes, it would come back to the town council for discussion and action.
Okay, but as of now, we don't take an action until it happens, and there's no risk of losing the grant because DEEP has been involved the whole time.
Right, because we're waiting on them, as opposed to them waiting on us.
Yep, thanks.
All right, and before I entertain a motion to adjourn, just pointing out to everyone, February 21st is Tuesday. It's the next town council meeting due to President's Day, which is that Monday, that normal Monday that we would have our council meeting. And with that, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.